how's it going? I wanted to talk today about authenticity. I talk about that a lot, usually in passing. Be your true authentic self, be authentic in all things. Even when I work with my clients, I may give an example of how I would word something, but I always emphasize that it has to be your language. Your authentic self has to come through. Otherwise, it's not going to be effective. Okay. So what I mean by authenticity, if we look up the dictionary meaning, it's basically talking about being real, being genuine. A lot of times, as human nature does, we think that being authentic runs to having to be loud about it, right? Like, this is how I feel. This is who I am, and and that we have to be almost aggressive about being authentic. Authenticity speaks for itself. It's kind of like if you're a confident person, you're not going to come into the room and say, I'm confident, right? Because that usually conveys the opposite. When we feel that we have to prove something or we have to defend something to some degree, then it loses its value in a sense, because authenticity is consistent. It's there for people to see that actually want to see. Because usually the people you have to defend yourself to aren't going to see you even through your defense. They're just going to see their projected version of you, what they believe about you based on their own unhealed aspects or their own insecurities, if you will. They're not going to see what you're saying or hear what you're saying because they don't see beyond their own lack, if you will. And that may sound harsh, but oftentimes it is. If someone, it's kind of like you can't expect someone to love you who doesn't love themselves. How can they love you if they're not even loving on themselves? And it's sad because we all have it within us to grow through that. And believe me, I've had lack in my life. Believe me, I've had lack in my life. And it's hard to break those belief systems when you've lived it. When you've lived impoverished, or you've had to sleep in your car, if you will, or you've had to, I don't know, there's a lot of ways that we can feel impoverished or we can feel lack. And it's really hard to believe you're worth more than that when it's been over and over again reinforced through experience. Okay. However, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Chances are the experience came first. However, once you develop that belief system of lack, that I'm never going to get ahead, I'm never this or that, or I'm not good enough, or I'm unlovable, or whatever you may perceive or believe, or whatever has been reinforced in your life. Not everyone has been told they're unlovable. Oftentimes it's our own interpretation or how we integrate the experience through our own filter, our own belief systems that we developed in our youth, right? And it just feeds that belief system, and we call into us what we believe. Meaning we are what we focus on, or our experience is what we focus on. Kind of like I used an example one time. If you're afraid of butterflies, a room full of butterflies, or going to like a place that has butterflies is going to be scary for you. You're going to feel under attack. You're not going to feel safe, and can be traumatizing. Whereas if you love butterflies and you think they're the most beautiful thing on the planet, going into a room full of butterflies and them landing on you might feel euphoric. Which one's right? That's not about right or wrong. I'm not saying there aren't rights and wrongs in this world. I'm just talking about the impact of our belief systems, which are usually developed based on our experiences or our perceived experiences. So how we perceive what we're experiencing feeds belief systems, okay? And they get stronger and harder to uproot when they're not actually serving us, okay? So with that being said, I didn't know where I was going with that. My goodness. Help me out. With that being said, lack brings in more lack. Okay? When you look at things from a lack perspective, right, wrong, or indifferent, if I look at things from a, well, I knew that was going to happen. Life always throws that at me. Well, that means I almost anticipate it, which sometimes we manifest it. We become a self-fulfilled prophecy. Yeah, we can track it back with actual tangible things that we may have done or choices we may have made to make that happen. But at the end of the day, when we sit with those belief systems, that usually does become our experience. If I feel unsafe, my body is still going to go through the physiological impact of fear. Okay? Whether I was safe or not. So our perception, it really feeds our perceived reality. That's our perception of what's happening. Okay? So let me tie that back to authenticity. When we're authentic, we don't have to yell from the top of the building, this is who I am. Not everyone, we don't need to overshare in order to be authentic. We don't need labels. We don't need to defend ourselves. We just exist in our truest form, basically. We're real. We show up the way we are. And people who are meant to, or who are on our vibe, if you will, okay, our energetic frequency, are in alignment with us, if you will, they're going to just understand that this is who you are. And they're not going to get waylaid by gossip or other people's intentions. Because sometimes there are people who are intimidated by authenticity because maybe they wear a mask in their life. Maybe they're insecure about things. We all have insecurities, right? But we don't necessarily have to put those in the driver's seat, right? Our ego. We have an ego. Ego isn't bad. We just don't necessarily want it making our choices for us because it usually leads us down pathways that we don't necessarily feel best down, okay? But we are all motivated with some level of ego. Like when you earn a reward or you earn a diploma or you do something like that, we enjoy that because of our ego. That's what helps us function in this 3D reality, okay? So I say this all the time. Ego's not bad. We just don't want it in the driver's seat, okay? Authenticity is what feeds your soul, right? If you're a kind person, you're going to show up kind in any scenario, okay? You can be in prison, God forbid, and still be kind by looking out for animals or people or, you can't fake kindness necessarily. You can fake being nice. You can. And this is why it's important to really know someone's authentic. We have to spend time getting to know them, right? We need to spend time with them to really truly know that this is who they are and not just who they're saying they are. There's a difference. And usually we pick up on that more if we're being present in the moment and paying attention to how we feel when we're around certain people, how we feel when we're engaging with them. Okay, and are they consistent? Are they consistent in how they behave? How do they engage under pressure? How do they engage when they're upset? And again, well, what I want to say is this isn't to judge people or to say this one's better than that one or things like that. No, that's not what I mean by that. But we do want to pay attention because sometimes people aren't good for us, right? There are toxic people out there that take advantage of people. Not everyone. Not everyone. Okay? There's a lot of really good people out there too that care. All right? But not everyone is all good or all bad. We have our ups and downs. We have those days where we're more emotionally vulnerable and may act out in a way. And God forbid if that's someone's first impression of you. But it's happened to all of us. Trust me. Trust me. Back in my road rage days, I'm sure I gave some first impressions that I wish I could take back. But at the end of the day, nobody's perfect. And I'm not trying to push perfection. I'm just saying, I know for me, on the day I close my eyes for the last time in this life, I truly hope I'm a far better person than I am today. And that's the work that I'm doing. But that's the journey, right? I'm not looking necessarily at the destination. I don't think that I will ever be perfect. Ever. It's just not what well, in my opinion, it's not what we're here for. We are here to better ourselves and to help others, but do it in a way where you're also helping yourself. Not from an opportunistic point of view, but from a reciprocal point of view. I work on me, you work on you, then we can help each other out and then just make life better. That's what I'm talking about. We never want to neglect ourselves for the sake of others because then we're not truly helping. Okay. But in any case, that aside, being authentic isn't about labels. It's not about trying to convince people of anything about you. It's just basically who you are as a human being, how you're showing up. Are you consistent with that, or are you wishy-washy because you haven't even figured out who you are? Okay? What fills your cup? What makes you happy? That doesn't mean you're going to be happy all the time. We all have days that we would consider bad. I don't care how evolved you are. We live in a dense world. We do. There's a lot going on, especially in this day and age. So don't all or nothing anything that I say. I try not to exist in the all or nothing. I am in the middle with most things. I really am, because quite truthfully, there's truth to everything and there's lies to everything in this day and age. Heck, you can't even trust videos. I watched a video of these raccoons jumping on a trampoline. I'm like, whoa, that's really cool. And then there was another video of skunks doing it, and then of bears doing it. I'm like, oh, maybe that's AI. Or the videos with the kids hand feeding the grizzly bears. I mean, come on. It looked real though. But that one I knew right away. I'm like, there's no way that's happening. Because if someone's actually filming a child putting their hand in a grizzly bear's mouth, I know the world is a little bent at times, but that's pretty bad. Anyway, that aside, being authentic is being true to your soul. What feels good? And am I in a safe place where I can express myself? There are things about me that I don't share with everyone because it's none of their business. Who all of a sudden said that you have to share everything about yourself with everyone? Like you have to wear labels. No, not at all. Oversharing is not authenticity. Oversharing is trying to fit in. It's trying to people please. It's those gratuitous, not gratuitous, I can't think of the word. So never mind. At the end of the day, though, being authentic is just being who you are and being consistent with it, regardless of who you're around. Not hiding yourself, but not oversharing either, because not every space is safe anyway. So, you know, if I don't know. There's so many scenarios, right? I like to burn incense because I love the smell. I'm very olfactory. So whether incense, essential oils, I like to have that around. And maybe someone else believes that, oh, you burn incense, you must be, I don't know. I don't know. People think all kinds of things. And then they feel the need that they have to project that on you or control the way other people think about you. That's just control. When people, as I've talked about gossip in the past, when people feel the need to control how people view you, there's usually some level of negative impulse behind that, right? Whether it's insecurity, maybe they don't like something about you. Maybe you have nice hair or something. It's like, well, I'm jealous of that. Blah, blah, blah. I'm envious. There's all kinds of people in the world, okay? But that's a projection. And if someone's trying to convince you how to feel about somebody else, pay attention to that. Because in life, you make your own discernment. I always say that to my kids, like when you go into college and everyone's saying, avoid this professor. I've had that happen to me before, but I like to make my own opinions. And some of those professors I was told to avoid were some of my favorite professors. So it really depends on you. So don't let people tell you how you should feel about anything, because your experience of it is going to come down to your own discernment and your own personality and who you are. But again, a lot of times we follow the pack and go along with that because we're people pleasing. No one wants to be ostracized. Look at Sociology 101. We all like to be part of the group. We're not meant to be completely isolated. There's studies on isolation and how that impacts people. It's not usually very good. So it can impact the literal brain, okay? So our brain likes self-preservation. Therefore, we usually fall in line out of fear, out of whatever. I'm not telling you to be unsafe, okay? I'm just saying, be authentic. Find the things in life that make you happy. And if the people that you surround yourself with shame you for that, then they might not be your people. That's all. But use discernment in all things, because our brains like to trip us up sometimes. So you think of all the cognitive distortions, they can all be used as skills too. It really depends on the scenario and what's going on. So I just wanted to come out here and talk a little bit about that. It's about being real. It's about your vibe. It's not about making announcements or throwing things in people's faces or trying to make people believe certain things. That's not authenticity. That's aggression. It's insecurity. It's a lot of things. It's fear. But authenticity is usually quiet. A confident person doesn't have to announce that they're confident. You just pick up on their vibe. Okay? So I hope that helps. This went way long, but I hope you're having a great week. If you've made it this far, please like, subscribe, share if you think someone could benefit. And I hope you have a great one. I'll talk soon. Bye.